listening to the Debug Podcast.
Hey, you listening to the Debug Podcast.
Hey y'all, you're listening to the Debug Podcast.
All right. So, welcome to the Debug Podcast. We got some folks here from Debug, and we're gonna jump into talking about what's coming up in 2026, which is the NFL and FIFA are coming to the Bay Area, coming to San Jose. As folks know, there's lots of implications of what that means for folks that live here, that are from here. But before we jump into it, I think we're going to do some introductions real quick. My name's Andrew, organizer with Debug. Excited to be here with y'all. I'm gonna pass it off to Liz.
Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Gonzalez. I'm also an organizer with Debug, and I'll pass it to Alicia.
I'm Alicia. I'm also an organizer here with Debug.
Hey everybody, my name is Xavier, also an organizer with Silicon Valley Debug.
Right on. So I mean, all that to say, as folks who may be listening, or folks if they don't know, but Debug has their hands in a lot of different things. Whether it's supporting loved ones through the criminal justice system or through the immigration system, through housing. There's all types of things that we're definitely involved in, and all these things kind of cross over into this topic of these massive corporations or organizations coming to the Bay Area to run their sporting events. So yes, I guess we're going to start a little bit just with some background as to what's going on. Does anybody want to? I could give a little bit of background real quick, and then folks feel free to jump in on it. So essentially we have the Super Bowl that is happening here in Santa Clara in February 2026. And that's like Super Bowl is like there's like a 2-week window where everybody from the NFL, there's gonna be folks from out of town coming in, even internationally, all this kind of stuff, folks gonna be coming in. Teams are gonna be here, there's gonna be events throughout the Bay Area, all this kind of stuff, right? And then the Super Bowl, all leading up to the Super Bowl in that weekend. And then I believe in summertime, I believe in like June or July, FIFA is coming to the Bay Area, and again coming to Santa Clara and the 49er Stadium. And it's all the same stuff. There's gonna be tons of events and all this kind of stuff, right? Um, I guess first and foremost, I'm gonna say, I'm both a fan of football, the game, and soccer. You know what I'm saying? I watch both sports. I got teams, all this kind of stuff. I'll be watching these games even myself, right? But I think the reason why we're having this conversation is because sometimes what gets looked over, unless you're being impacted by it, is that when these corporations come to these local areas, there's lots of stuff that happens locally, on a policy level, on a policing level, on an attempt to hide poverty, and all this kinds of stuff from out of towners. And those have real life implications for the people that live here. So that's kind of the foundation of this conversation and how we're going to jump into it. Folks got anything they want to add? Or
I mean, our city, we're from San Jose, and we're not even like a main city of these events, but hella up in the mix. And it's just what happens all the time with these type of events, and what happened for the last Super Bowl, the money. No, but it's all about money, obviously. But the city is like so willing to spend so much money on temporary things to attract people who are not from here. And it gets sold as something that's going to bring so much economic windfall and benefits to the community. But in reality, those economic benefits don't reach like everyday people. Aren't here for the long run. They're like temporary things. And our city doesn't get the majority of it. Like, we're not a main attraction. And that money and that effort could be spent for the community here, like to make our actual lives better. And we're totally ignored, totally, we have to fight for years and years to get crumbs, like a little portion of what they're willing to spend for a momentary thing.
Yo, and I gotta add to that that like San Jose so desperately wants to be the main attraction here, and and there's like a little bit of like a shift, I would say, in San Jose of like wanting to compete with San Francisco and Oakland, to be, I would say even more so San Francisco, in terms of wanting to be a destination for these types of events, and not because oftentimes they'll have the actual sporting event down here in like the Niner Stadium or wherever, but all the parties, all the
Mhm.
hotels where people book out, all that's normally in Frisco. And it sounds like so desperately wants to try and get in on that. And when I say San Jose, let's break that down. What do we mean? Who wants to get in on that, right? Folks got any folks want to chime in on that? We got a mayor that is already been trying to hide poverty in this city for however long he's been in office. And it's just escalating coming into this, right? But who's this actually benefit, like with these folks coming to town?
Zillow. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's definitely like catering to people that aren't local, or like that have funds to be able to like build all this fancy shit that's attractive, shit that's like brand new, current, shot like um, but it just adds on to the shit that's unaffordable here. Like,
Yeah.
there is no. I think that's one of the issues with San Jose, that like it feels so bland, and the mayor's trying to like make it hip and stuff like that. But the reason it feels bland is because they're ignoring the people that have been here for generations, and kind of like there's a historic trend in San Jose where they destroy the historic monuments or the culture that's already here, because it's not something that they could like sell or make more profitable. Um, so yeah, them trying to like bring the FIFA here and the Super Bowl. Like, I think it's very apparent with like how they've made downtown like a drug-free zone, but that's basically just what they use, their tactic to like move and arrest or detain people that are homeless. Give them a reason to stop them and arrest them. Like, people are coming in like, yeah, I got arrested for, I had, they just pulled up on me and started searching me. And, it's the same officers that did it like a week or two prior, where they're actually, recognizing them by face, like, oh, it's you again, type stuff. Like, so yeah, that's just an excuse to make it look like it's nice, but it's just kind of just hiding the problem, not really addressing it. Also with like, I forget what the park is called, but just down the street where like they cleared it out and they're saying, oh, it's not safe. We can't use the trails. And it's been cleared out for like at least a month, and I haven't seen them like do any upgrades to it. I haven't seen people balling up at the basketball court using the trails, or them clear out the dog park. Nobody's using that dog park. So yeah, it's definitely an issue here in San Jose.
Yeah. I was gonna say like that whole idea of like the Silicon Valley and kind of like being a techie kind of tech bro kind of place to be. Kind of what you were saying of going back to trying to be San Francisco, of like where all like those tech companies are at, the startups, all that kind of stuff. Where I mean, San Jose doesn't really. I mean, San Jose, I feel like encompasses way more. Like I think like even all the little suburbs like Cupertino, Mountain View, Sunnyvale. Like when people don't think of like Cupertino or of Sunnyvale, Mountain View, like all those places. Like I think San Jose is like in kind of larger city encompassing kind of thing, and like they're trying to make it be more than just that. Um, and even other places are trying to now replicate like San Jose, like then it's supposed to be in like the new Silicon Valley, where like Apple has moved out there and Tesla has moved out there and all this kind of stuff. And like these are bigger corporations that are paying people to move out here or move out there and help them pay rent that's like completely unaffordable to people here. Like, uh, I know somebody that moved out to Texas because they offered them to pay like their housing for them and gave them an increase in their pay of like, of course I'm gonna move. And so like I know larger companies like that are doing like Apple and Microsoft and all those bigger tech companies are doing this for people like for people that are not from San Jose. They're moving here and like those larger companies that can afford 3, 4, $5,000 rents, like a single family home, like a single family can't afford that living on like minimum wage. Like I don't think anybody can live on a minimum wage alone in San Jose.
Absolutely not. No way. And I gotta say too, like, because some of the Xavier said too that brought up kind of going to what you're saying, Alicia, like, I feel like sometimes San Jose gets this rap, right? That it's real bland out here. It's vanilla. It's like it's not popping, all this type of shit, right? But so it's a little bit of background, right? So there is a history of like, venues and events and concerts that happen here. And that scene kind of got pushed out of San Jose, and, towards like the late 90s, early mid 2000s. And a part of that push to remove that local vibrant scene in which places like people from Oakland, all the places of the Bay Area would come to San Jose. 40 Water used to like own a club down here, all that type of shit, right? Um, and all that stuff got pushed out. And a part of the reason why it got pushed out, right, is because the culture that does exist here, because there is culture here, you know what I'm saying? There is people here, there are events, there is things to do, but it's just not what those with money or with power want it to be. You know what I mean? We and a lot of that looks like too is like they want it to be upscale. They want all of San Jose to look like Santana Row. You know what I mean? Or be a Valley Fair type shopping place. And they will, and the part of it is that it's lost a lot of its ability to build organic culture and grow from it because of that want and because of people being priced out, pushed out, all this kind of stuff, and really just a lack of embrace of the culture that is. Cruising was illegal until a couple years ago. You know what I mean? Like, talk about like a foundational part of San Jose culture, right? Like, and then that gets pushed out. And these events are like totally like was Super Bowl coming again to San Jose in the South Bay. It's a little bit just more of that, but just on like a very dramatic, condensed schedule, right? Because they have to remove the poverty from out of sight, and they have to formulate these events on a schedule, right? It's got to be ready by like February 1st. Um, uh, yeah. Folks got any thoughts on culture out here? Because I don't want to give our city a bad rap. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause we got
We
culture
love
out
San
here.
Jose. We
We
love
love
San
this
Jose.
place.
We need to
Fucking
say
love
that.
this shit.
Sorry, it took us this long to get to. We love San Jose. That's why and we have to be critical. It's okay to be critical of these things. Like sometimes we forget, and I'm always talking about like we don't have any historical memory here, right? Because the culture here is to move on into the next best thing and erasing like all these things that were built, like Xavier saying, like our history just being erased. So there aren't a lot of spaces that hold all that memory for us. So we got to do it, and it's okay to be critical of these things. Like we're losing those skills, because those same corporations that are taking so much from us and limiting our opportunities for the vast majority, right? There's examples that are always going to stand out, but those are like an exception, right? Because that's the design. Like some people will make it as an example, and the rest of us, like we have to struggle. Like that's not the world that we want to live in. But these corporations like manufacture a culture and like use local artists to make these things okay. And I know everybody want to make it and like get their shine, but on the backs of who, you know? Um, at least disrupt those events because this is not something new, right? They're going to pour in money and they're going to move on to the next place. And then, what did you do for your community? Like sell out to a corporation for a temporary thing. They're going to forget you. Um,
All right. That's such a great chance. You got something else you want to add to that?
No. Yeah, I know I was like, yeah, very critical of like what San Jose is becoming.
Hmm.
Because, like growing up in the east side of San Jose, by Emma Persh Park, by Pink Elephant, like Cesar Chavez, Mexican Heritage Plaza, growing up seeing the marches on Cinco de Mayo, on Cesar Chavez Day, like that was a tradition that has been condemned, and now it's like you said, like low riding was also kind of like integrated into that culture that has been criminalized, right? And yeah, recently, they lifted that I mean that policy making low riding illegal, but even to this day, like even now, like they they allow it for a certain amount of time, but then they like flow or direct traffic into the freeways and they close down streets where you can't get to it. So, but when it's like other events that aren't like, you know, with the culture of like East Side or Latino like tradition and culture, like it gets treated so differently. And yeah, like trying to bring in or appeal to people from outside of San Jose, other countries, kind of trying to appeal to people with money kind of takes away from that culture because you're appealing to people that don't live here or don't know about the history. And it kind of just continues to take away from that culture and that history. So it's like using all that money to appeal or sell or cater to people that aren't from here, don't live here, instead of using that money to kind of cultivate and, you know, solidify that unity within San Jose. Yeah, it kind of shows like what the issue is. Like it's becoming super bland. It's not like for people that live here. Like the people that are in charge or making these decisions, aren't catering to what's been, kind of just like established already in San Jose and what made San Jose, you know, what it is, like what it's known for, low riding. Um, yeah, I think yeah. So I mean I love San Jose. It's just that what it's becoming like. Yeah, because even like downtown did used to be popular. I remember being a kid, like going to like having to like pick up my brothers when they were going downtown. Like it looked so fun, but now when it's like I'm of age of going to like downtown is not like that anymore. Like it's just like it lost its appeal. And I could see definitely what they're trying to do. They're desperately trying to bring that back. But they're going about it in the wrong way, where it feels like it's kind of too like kind of needy, sort of kind of. Um, but yeah, um,
For
that's
sure.
love sounds it.
Yeah, and I know we're like I don't know how long we're in, probably like 15 minutes into this thing or something like that. And so before folks who are listening just categorize this as a hater podcast, um, just want to like there are tangible things that are going to happen as a result to these events to people who are our neighbors and are from here, right? And so I guess it's the popcorn, right? Like, what are those things? What does that look like? Just so folks can understand that, all this fun or global attention, national attention is paired with local leaders and local police and local businesses essentially creating pathways to harm people, right? Like whether that's through sweeps, displacement, policing downtown. incarceration, God forbid, any immigration enforcement and shit that those 2 weeks, all that kind of stuff. Folks want to talk about that. Just, we could popcorn it. Just, some of the things that folks are expecting to happen as this comes up.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely feels like, like when you have like a rich family member coming to visit your house and your parents tell you you got to clean up everything and hide all your mess before they show up. Um, I mean, that's definitely what it feels like Mayhem is doing. Like all the like encampments are being displaced, like all those folks, like, people like those are their livelihoods. Like people are like that's their whole life, their whole belongings, and they're like not only like just getting rid of people on the streets, they're throwing away their belongings, they're throwing away all their life. And we're paying for those sweeps. I think each sweep costs like $10,000 or something like that or over. And like on Capitol Expressway, right? They're building that BART, right? They're building the BART. So many people, like for the last like 3 or 4 days, I passed through Capitol Expressway every day to come to debug, and like there's been people cleaning up the sides of the freeway of where you enter the 680, and on both sides, like they're now clear. Before there was like a bunch of little encampments like all around the freeway entrances, and now like all of it is gone. And the same things happen like on Monterey Road, and the same thing has happened like all throughout San Jose. And just to like add to that, like people have like the struggle of being homeless. Like, you know, my dad has a brother that's houseless, and like, he chose to self-deport because like the struggle of being houseless in San Jose was extremely hard. Like during COVID, like having to move from place to place, and like sleeping in parks and like at the what is it called, the Raging Waters place, and like getting kicked out and getting all your clothes thrown away, like getting everything ruined, like everything you have, everything you own to your name, getting lost, misplaced, thrown away. He was like so tired of that continuing to happen, and like not getting services that he needed and all this kind of stuff. I think he was too fed up and like decided to leave. And I mean, that's one story of like thousands of houseless folks that we have in our community.
And of one who survived that because, just terrorizing folks and destroying everything they have, not only like destroys the networks that they've built in those locations and the access that they have to service providers, but it could destroy their whole life and end their whole life. Like those sweeps lead to more deaths. Like every single year, we've seen an increase. And the mayor wants to point back to the same people and say it's their own fault for not coming inside, but that choice and that option doesn't really exist. Like it's a straight lie because of all these different factors, and because there isn't availability for real shelter and long-term housing, because that's not a priority, right? Just a temporary, immediate, like sweep it under the rug for right now. Let's pretend that we're doing something about it and someone else will have to deal with it later.
Yeah. And this is in December, January, and early February. Like arguably the coldest window of the year out here is when folks are going to be displaced, have their belongings taken away, all this kind of stuff. And just to echo what Liz was saying too, like around, because our mayor here in San Jose has built his following off of creating the narrative that the reasons the biggest problem of San Jose is homeless people. I mean, he'll use his words in a way that is a little less blaming, I guess, but that is in the core essential of his belief system and what he has espoused to the residents here in San Jose is that homelessness is the biggest issue here. It is the thing that needs to be cleaned up, right? I don't know how you clean up people, but uh And a part of that too is that, he's, if this is the budget of San Jose, the amount that we spend on homelessness or housing is probably like this, you know what I mean? And we've been in this fight for years with this guy already, and his predecessors. He likes to think he's innovative. This is absolutely nothing new. This is a repeat cycle of every other mayor that's come before this. We got a $500 million police budget. We'll give subsidies to companies, sold Google all types of land, and we still are arguing about like $30 million for housing or something like that. Like so just to put that in perspective, like he took all this money out of what was supposed to be for long-term housing developments in San Jose that are permanently affordable, right? And he try to use that money to create kind of like mass emergency temporary shelter, and then came up with the policy that if houseless folks choose to not go to a temporary shelter, that they can be arrested for it and they can be detained for it, cited, all that kind of stuff, right? And just to give some background too, like I'm thinking of all the YouTube and Facebook comments that you could see on on news stuff, and why someone chooses to stay in the streets as opposed to go into an emergency temporary shelter. If you were given, I would put my money that if you were to give anybody keys to an apartment, that they would take it. But going to an emergency shelter, sometimes it is not for families, or sometimes if you have a partner or a father that can't attend, animals maybe can't attend. You cannot bring all your belongings, everything that you've accumulated that you take with you from place to place. You have to essentially start over if you go to most of these places. Um, if someone is dealing with substance issues and stuff like that, that could also exclude you from that. There's a lot of different factors as to goes into that decision as to why someone may not make that decision. And they've been doing this, like he's been doing this for like the entirety of his mayoral window or whatever. But I guess a part of us doing this is to say that this is going to get even worse over the next 6 months. It already has over the last few months, and it's going to continue to escalate as to what's happening to folks. Um, and even outside of the homeless stuff too, like there is this factor of policing, right? Like, and that involves homeless folks, but it also, if anyone that's been to downtown San Jose, we talked about like late, the 90s, early 2000s. Even before my time, I was also a kid going to pick up my older siblings. My mom would take me to go pick people up and shit downtown. But uh as that kind of culture was forced out of San Jose and out of downtown San Jose, a lot of places downtown, if you're dressed a certain way, you can't get into places. There's a and the increase of police presence downtown, they want it to look a certain way. If you're in San Pedro Square and you dress a certain way, you might get targeted. Like and that's not fear. That's real. Anybody want to go at least that's all you.
Yeah, I was gonna say like if you have like any neck or face tattoos, you're not allowed to go into spaces. If you wear baseball caps, you're not allowed to go to spaces. Like I don't wanna put us out there, but like Xavier and I have gone out and Xavier has been denied getting into spaces multiple times because
I
of
don't
what he was wearing.
face tattoos. What was the other stuff he listed? I don't. Anything she listed, I do not have. So and I
We
still
still
was.
couldn't get in.
So
And these are the establishments, right? That's not even the
Yeah,
police, right? Like that's
yeah,
just like
yeah.
that's just like the people that work the door and the security guards that are informed to not let people like that look a certain way in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very much like trying to cater to like all the new young people coming in from the college, like from San Jose State and stuff. Like, I mean, downtown is what, a block from San Jose State. Um, and so trying to cater to all those young people that are gonna take over these tech jobs and all that kind of stuff. So they very much trying to make it seem almost like in a professional kind of like way. And it's so weird, like I was out one night and like the whole street was blocked off with cop cars. I'm not kidding, maybe like 30 cop cars to arrest like one person. And I was like, it was wild. It was like towards the end of the night, everything kind of closes around 1:30, 2 o'clock. And it was like right before that time. So everything kind of got shut down. And, I think this is just like the truth about over policing and like who in reality who's getting arrested. It's like our Black brown community. Like they're not arresting like uh freaking San Jose State white college student that isn't like gonna be an engineer. Like that's not who they're arresting.
Yeah. And I think it's too, it's like it's seeing that like the the police are used as a tool in preparation for events like the Super Bowl and FIFA. Like they are a mechanism to enforce how you want your city or your neighborhood or whatever street to look like for these companies and out of towners to come in, right? Um, and the thing is too, just want to say too that like anyone that has police interaction, whether you're houseless or not, in downtown area, whatever, wherever, you know what I'm saying? That may happen in preparation for the Super Bowl or for FIFA, but the effects of that arrest last much longer, right? Like, you could be dealing with a case for a very long time, whether affecting your record, your housing. There's so many things that can be impacted by police interaction that is inherently prejudiced because of who they're looking for, quite literally, to not be in that spaces. Yeah, so uh, I think too, something too is coming up for me too is that because we talked about, I don't know, Liz, I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about it or have enough information to, but like we're talking about like how cities spend on these types of events or I know I'm imagining too like it's like this I believe for the sweeps as well, but like whether it's just like police overtime, the kind of like the policing aspect to it. But there's other ways that the cities and stuff invest in these events and like kind of they try to attract these companies, right? Like we love the NFL, like we love the game of football, right? But the NFL is a corporation, it is a company, it's for profit. I think its status may actually not be for profit, but it is a for-profit company, 100%. And they're not going to come here unless it's lucrative. You know what I mean? And so what does that look like?
Well, the whole thing is like to win a competition, right? To bring them to your city in the first place. And it has to be nice. And you have to, your area, you have to have a stadium that's hella new. And once you win that competition, like you're asking everybody, there's a lot of public-private partnerships like to beautify downtown for people who will come here. It already started and people are spending a lot of money to make it look nice um, for somebody that will come instead of like the folks who are already here and hosting these events to say like, oh, we want everybody to enjoy this and come out to this. But the reality is that those things are not for everybody. It's very specific. Um, but it's coded in all this language of like we're all going to have a good time when this comes, and help us have a good time now.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is too, it is that like, like we'll have to come back and we'll as debug maybe we'll have to try and find what the actual spending is, but I would put my last dollar that this city is probably in whether in tax breaks or in actual spending is probably surpassing or uh quadrupling or something like that the whatever the actual like housing budget is to house people
Oh,
in
yeah.
San
Let me
Jose.
compare
I'm
those.
willing I'm willing to guess it is as like astronomically larger than what they're willing to spend on people in need here. And this is that's a conversation of priorities, right? Like, and And in these types of situations, folks like the mayor and the city continue to show their priorities, you know. And the priorities are not the most vulnerable folks that are out here that need the most, you know. Yeah.
I think maybe we'll get into it later time, but like also like all the vendors that are gonna be at the stadiums and stuff, like having worked at the flea market and having family work at the flea market, knowing so many people, like a lot of folks are undocumented. And that's exactly why they become like street vendors because there's that's like the income that they're able to receive. And like with the not just the San Jose administration, but like the United States administration, like what we have going on here and all these ICE raids, like having something like the Super Bowl and the World Cup, like that's a target for ICE to do raids in the Bay Area. And I mean, I'm assuming more just in San Jose, but the entire like Bay Area, but specifically like the South Bay, Santa Clara, San Jose, where all these folks are going to be in one place, and it's going to be like a catch-all for ICE and things like that. Like, having experience like my dad getting picked up in a raid, it's like extremely stressful for a family. It's crazy. And like, supporting families that have gone through this as well. Like, having your loved one picked up by ICE, it's like, it's possibly like a death sentence to a lot of people. A lot of folks are here that have been here their entire lives that don't know anything else but here. And a lot of the time, street vendors are all like family. And so, like, having one of your loved ones or one of your family members being taken away is like, I don't know, so disheartening and so crazy. And like the idea that ICE is probably going to target events like this because it's just the easiest thing. And I think trying to make an example of whatever they're trying to do, but here is like also so like disheartening and crazy to think about because they don't care about San Jose. Like they don't care about the people here in San Jose. And if there are people.
Yeah. And, and this like like that like they don't care about sounds like things like this these companies are gonna leave after they're done, and then all that money is gonna be spent, getting them here, and then they're gone, but what will last is any interaction with police, any interaction with ICE agents, um, uh, anyone that got displaced during this time period, um, all that's going to have long lasting effects for individuals and families far after the Super Bowl or FIFA World Cup. Um, um, yeah, man. Yeah, that shit wild, man. Um, I know I think we about 45 minutes in. I think we could probably start to wrap it up. I guess two things I want to ask. Uh so one is, what are we what is Debug doing about this? Or like, what are we going to continue to do? Um and then the second one I want to ask is maybe a little bit of a rhetorical question, but I feel like I have homies that would say this line, but like, why can't we just have anything fun here without there being problems? Like, like, why can't we why can't we have Kehlani perform on Santa Clara Street? Why can't we have a Super Bowl? Why can't we have turn up events? Why can't we have nice things? Um, uh, and because I feel it, what I'm saying? Like, and I've said this before too. The idea of Kehlani performing from Oakland, performing in the Bay Area on Santa Clara Street. I love Kehlani. I love her music, her artistry. I love her as a person and her worldview. Um, uh, but it's kind of like, what is why are we talking about this? Like, what's your guys' response to someone that says something like that? And why are we talking about this now? And I don't want to say making an issue of it, but like maybe exposing the issue of it.
I think it'll be different if it's from people like us for people like us. But like things like this is like these are corporations or like larger political kind of entities pushing these upon us, like trying to be like, look, we're here, we're fun, we're this and that. And so I think, I mean, if it was like community putting on like Kaylani just putting on a show because Kaylani put on a show here in the Bay Area, it would be way different than freaking the mayor of San Jose bringing her to City Hall and shutting down like downtown to be able to create this thing. And I think like essentially I think that's the difference.
Exactly, exactly. Like we deserve a joyous life with fun and nice things, like every single one of us on this planet. Um, but a corporation or folks with that in mind, like they don't believe that. And they're all about exploitation. And so, in our own little way, like we could choose not to participate in that. Like we have the means, like what we've always said at Debug, like we could we could just throw that. We could throw a party. We could do that on our own, you know? And people are doing that already. So we don't have to fall into this trap of like a corporation providing all of that for us. Because we can do it ourselves and we can do it fucking better.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the thing is too with the Santa Clara Street show with Kehlani is that like it low key, if you go on social media, it low key feels like Matt Mahan, the mayor, is throwing this show. You know what I mean? Like this man, he might as well be a promoter or like I hope he's working the door or some shit. You know what I'm saying? When the event happens, because like the presentation of this is his show. You know what I mean? Like. And for folks that are organizing this show, you know what I'm saying? Definitely, I got some background in it. I understand the amount of work that it takes to facilitate not only getting a massive artist to come, but like throwing an actual show and all the things that go along with that. But my only kind of like criticism of it is that when you pair it with a man like that, we are co-signing his policies and what he is doing. You know what I mean? And it's immoral. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not cool, the approach that he's taken to um removing homeless folks, increasing policing, and quite frankly, just like wanting to hide things. And I will say too, just like I'm gonna throw this in here, but just like NFL's gonna come here, they're gonna have their Super Bowl, they're gonna leave. FIFA's gonna come here, they're gonna have like 6 matches or whatever, and then they're gonna leave. Matt Mahan is building his resume. That man will also leave, and and whatever happens here in San Jose is gonna stay the way it was, maybe even worse. And we are all, anyone that calls this place home is gonna have to live with the ramifications of this for years to come. It's not isolated. You know what I'm saying? And that this is a pattern of folks on the come up from other people's expense. You know what I'm saying? So um, yeah, ain't folks got anything else on that topic, or we can move. Why are we doing this? What are we gonna continue to do? Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like what the major issue is. Like we don't have an issue with like making the city nicer or making it more fun, um, you know, bringing in attractions or whatever. But it's just like, I guess it's just like, it feels like we're being told when it's okay, like when it's okay to have fun, when it's okay to make the city lit, when it's okay to make the city look nice. Like, because like before, yeah, like we said, when they made cruising illegal, that's like you're taking away from what people did for fun. And the stuff that people did was like you didn't have to pay to do it. You didn't have to have a ticket to drive your car with your family and listen to oldies and, you know, interact with the community because they're doing the same thing, or, going on those marches from Story and King to downtown. Like, you just walk, you don't have to pay for a ticket. And all this other stuff now is like you had to have funds to do it. And the excuse is like, oh, it's gonna make San Jose more attractive, it brings more money. Yeah, but it's already so expensive and people are struggling to maintain now. And there are people in the world that could afford it. They're making millions of dollars. They're making, fat ass checks and shit, like, where, money isn't the issue, but it's kind of like when those people come in, what happens to the people that are here now? Like, how do people that live here now, that are like living paycheck to paycheck, or that have been here for generations, how do they benefit from the Super Bowl coming here? Where do they see the benefit from it? Where do they see like the benefit of like cleaning all the streets and, making it attractive for FIFA? Because yeah, like you said, once it's gone and all that money's spent, the problem isn't, gone. Like, it was just, like as Liz said, just swept under the rug, and now we have to deal with it with a bigger hole in the pocket. Like, um, so yeah, I think that's kind of like why we're making it an issue, is like, you know, the way people like had fun in the past was like it was condemned, and then now you're like, oh, we deserve to have fun, and we're bringing Kehlani and stuff like that, or the Super Bowl, and it's like, who decided that it's what people here wanted? I mean,
Yeah. And like why can't we have nice things without exploiting or hiding people in poverty and like arresting people? You know what I mean? Like, like why can't, like the city wants to claim and feel inclusive, but we like we experientially know it's not, uh and it's like,
what makes it evident that it's not is that, like, where was this like intent or effort or optimism to make the city great or make the city like popping, without a Super Bowl coming or out of FIFA? Why not just have that intent
hmm
when you became mayor, or why not have that?
hmm
And fucking, isn't he like the mayor of San Jose? Like, doesn't Santa Clara have their own? Like, that shit's not even in San Jose, technically.
yeah, it's not.
And all the shit that's gonna happen is in San Francisco. Like, shouldn't like why isn't the mayor of Santa Clara promoting this shit? And fucking, you know what I mean? Like, it's like
Yeah,
me promoting some shit in Oakland, like
yeah,
nearby, it's close by.
yeah.
I could
No,
get there.
this is just this dude's application to move to a bigger office, at some point. Uh, but I no, I agree with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the why does it have to be paired with all these things? And look, like, we get told every time we go make public comment at City Hall about the need to reprioritize money into supporting the most vulnerable folks, including folks who are homeless, including folks who are housing insecure, that are dealing with, low income, can't afford their rent, all this kind of shit. There is a surplus of things that are needed in order to help residents here feel secure in one of the most expensive places in the world. I mean, we paying over 3 racks, $3,000 for like a two-bedroom apartment in most places in the city, if not even maybe more. Um, so like, uh, but every time we go to a public comment, we bring these issues, we write letters to the city council. They don't move they don't move that money. That money stays right where it is, and they will make organizations and advocates and people who are experiencing these things argue and fight over what is actually proportionately a pretty small piece of the city's budget. You know what I mean? And what's available. And they won't move it around. But then the NFL and FIFA come and we will just cash these checks and just spend as much money as needed to make this place feel a certain way for folks that are coming. And I think, if anyone reflects on it, like, why would you not feel salty about that? Why would you not be like, wait, like, um, and for me, it's just like that's a clear demonstration of morals and priorities. You know what I mean? Um, and that actually solving homelessness, like, which is housing, is not actually, they don't want to do it. That's not an actual priority. There's no reasonable steps that have been taken to actually eliminating poverty in that way. They would rather just make them uncomfortable and keep sweeping and moving them until they just leave and go to the next city, or wherever else. Essentially saying it's just not safe for you to be here. We don't care that you're homeless. We don't care that you are suffering from poverty, maybe addiction or anything else. You just need to do that over there. You just don't do it here. Um, uh, and I don't know, you can't convince me otherwise that that's like okay, you know what I'm saying, that's like a just policy or handling of what is a crisis, like what is like a genuine, like people are having a really hard time out here. um and this is, what I'm saying, and this is what we're doing. But Roger Goodell is gonna hit a stage and somewhere in Frisco or San Jose talking about how great it's been, um and yeah, sorry, my haterism starting to show up a little bit, but um so what are we gonna do, right? What are we're gonna keep spreading this word. We're gonna keep talking about it. Sometimes it feels like if we don't talk about it, we don't know who will locally talk about it. I also too just want to acknowledge that, like, this is not unique to San Jose. This is not unique to the Bay Area. These corporations that host these sporting events literally have this playbook that they do in every city that they go to, whether within the United States or even internationally. The last World Cup, Qatar brought in all these migrant workers that was like wildly treated badly, just really crazy stuff. Folks could look into it, but this is a pattern of these types of companies. You know what I mean? And so we definitely want to offer solidarity to other cities that are going through it and asking these same questions, because this is happening other places too. I don't think that this is unique to here, yeah, in that sense, but it's here now, and so now it's a San Jose problem, and we're gonna keep talking about it, and we're gonna keep supporting folks. But in that spirit, we're gonna keep spreading word about this. We're gonna keep talking about this, and then we're also gonna keep exploring ways to like, how do we tangibly interrupt the things that people in power here are gonna do with these events coming. One of those things that we have been discussing, that we plan on doing, is requesting or demanding that the district attorney not pursue any 148 charges is in San Jose, and especially in downtown area during the extent of these events. For folks that don't know, 148 is a resisting arrest charge. It's like frosting on cake, like sprinkles, you know what I'm saying? It just gets sprinkled on to anything, any police interaction. If they want to arrest you, they call it resisting arrest. Um, yeah, I don't know if folks have any thoughts on resisting arrest real quick.
I was gonna say, just even like with the stance that the DA had already took of like not charging any standalone 148. That's, I mean, still happening. They're still charging standalone 148, which is resisting arrest for what? Who knows? But you're resisting arrest or resisting arrest. So even that, so yeah, just to echo like Andrew's comments is like demanding that they don't charge any 148s, at least during this period of the sporting event.
And we know too that 148 is a class and racial charge. You know what I mean? Like no wealthy white folks that are going to be in downtown San Jose are going to be charged with a 148 the weekend of Super Bowl weekend. But there will be other people who will be, and they will not have any other charges, and they'll have no other reason for arrest than quote unquote resisting arrest. And so, anyways, all that to say, we're gonna keep pushing the issue. We're gonna keep being loud about this. And I hope that maybe by chance on social media, otherwise that local leaders are able to see folks talking about stuff like this and maybe have a moment of self-reflection. That might be, I don't know if that's too much to ask for, but it's gonna be something that needs to be pushed and talked about in order for to prevent harm from happening from folks who are actually from here and that live here and want to attend, want to, just like we're saying, want to go out, want to turn up, want to have fun, go to a concert, all the normal things that we would expect people to want to do. This is a real possible outcome, so yeah, I think that's it. I think we ran out of time. Folks, got any last words before we wrap? We good? All right. I appreciate anybody that has made it to the end of this thing and listened the whole way through. And yeah, I guess we sign it off.